Are you taking pictures right now?
No, I'm videoing you.
Why?
Oh, no, she's fine.
Well, one, because you're asking for his name.
Yeah, which is private, confidential health.
Exactly.
information.
That's exactly why I'm filming you.
Okay. Yeah, it's just that's a.
No, I don't have any
PHI
questions.
concern. He's filming because I'm asking for his name and date of birth. So.
You can film away, sir. But you are invading his privacy. Her
He
privacy.
can walk away,
Hey, how you doing? Hey,
and that's what he's doing.
Hey, I'm their supervisor. Can I help you?
Yeah.
Did you need something?
No, not really, actually. I'm just filming
Okay.
because she's asking for his name.
Right.
That means you're taking records. There's no way to access those records. That's the problem.
Access the records for who?
For him.
He can absolutely access
No, he
the
can't.
records. He can.
No, he can't.
He can fill out a form.
No,
and send
you
to the
keep
city.
lying about that shit. The fact of the matter is, you take that information, you still use that information, and that information is not accessed. I already went. I'm not going through your fucking lies, dude. I already contacted Matt Haney.
Okay, that's fine.
He went ahead and contacted Stephanie.
Okay.
I believe she's part of the SF Public Health.
Okay.
She responded back and said that there are no records. So in other words, you guys are keeping those records
As far as
those interactions happen. You use those records in order to make in order to make decisions about his mental health.
No, not at
but
all.
yet, yes, you are, because one way or the other, you're making a decision right now about his mental health.
right
that-
now,
that is-
what we're doing is we're offering him help. We're seeing if he'd like to go anywhere. We're offering him shelter, stuff like that.
Exactly.
Let me finish. I listen to you. Please listen to me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what they get, the information they get, it doesn't go into some sort of a public record. It goes into there's like a one system medical system where they just chart, say, hey, we spoke to this individual.
Exactly, and that's a problem.
They're
because
this,
right now, there's no way to verify that what you're putting down is correct one way or the other. He's already a vulnerable person as it is.
That's why we're out
So
here trying to
yeah, well, that's a problem. You're not helping anything because again, a real way to do this is actually have a form that gets filled out. He gets a copy of it. You get a copy of it. Then whether it's him or anybody else looks at that and says,
That's
hey,
right.
that's accurate or not accurate, and then you can go back and revise the record.
it's a
What you're
voluntary
doing,
Yeah.
what you're doing. I don't care what it is, no matter what.
She doesn't prefer.
It's not voluntary
to give
because
information
he
she doesn't
obviously
have to.
doesn't understand exactly what's going on. That's why it's not voluntary. If it was voluntary, he would know exactly what's going on. He would be able to have a piece of paper that says, this is what happened during this interaction. This is what the crisis unit determined. This is where they said I should go. You're not doing any of that. All you're doing is basically scamming to get money from the fucking city. Because all you're doing is writing down a little note that you may or may not give to him. You're going to have that as a record. So now you have a record that this person supposedly has mental health problems. You've spoken to him before. You supposedly gave him all this information that nobody can verify one way or the other actually happened. That's what's happening right now. You are basically taking advantage of a person who does need help, but also needs help understanding the help that he needs. You're not giving him any
How
resources.
do you know what we do and what we don't do?
Because you came to my house off of the same shit,
Who
and
came
then
to your house?
the crisis
Okay,
unit.
the crisis unit doesn't go indoors up until a couple days ago, so it wasn't us. So
I have it recorded.
Alright.
I have
I'm
it.
sure you do. I'm
What's
sure
your
you
name?
do.
What's
My
your
name's
name? Pat.
Pat.
Pat what?
Pat Renshaw.
Pat what? Richard?
Renshaw.
Richard?
Renshaw.
Renchar.
Yes.
How do you spell that?
Like Crenshaw without the C.
Oh, okay. I can email you, and you can see, because I've been dealing with the whole reason I'm even here is because I've been dealing with this for a very, very long time. There are they do come indoors. They do come indoors. They don't have any records. You're not able to revise those records whatsoever, and that's
do me a
why.
favor right now, you and I, we just go to the front and you and I just talk. That's it. I'm not.
I don't have anything more to talk to you about.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm
But
not
I don't
saying
have
put it
any.
away.
I don't have anything
But-
more to talk to you about. Like,
Okay, well, you're saying we came inside, and that could be. I believe you. You say you do. You got
Yeah,
it.
I know
That's
it's a
fine.
fact, but then-
I'd like to get some more information about what happened that you feel.
I can
like
email you.
You're interested.
Like again, I don't know what talking about it over there versus over here.
Just so we can talk about it without my crew here. I'm their supervisor, so if there's
It's
a problem,
better that they understand exactly what's going on. That's
Right.
exactly
I'd like to
why.
understand
Why
it.
is there all these secrets? There's
No,
not
there's
much
not.
more to
I
understand.
just like to understand
There's
it
not
so
much.
I can communicate
There's not
to
much
them
more to
exactly.
understand. A crisis unit was sent to my house. When they got there,
When did this happen?
a couple years ago, when they got there, I said, why are you guys even here as it is? They couldn't tell me why they were there. They couldn't tell me why they were leaving. They couldn't tell me anything about it. So then when I called and said, hey, look, this is fucking weird. I'm getting crisis people showing up at my fucking house. I have no issues going on, and then I'm trying to tell them I have no issues going on, and then what creates a weird catch-22 because apparently somebody informed them that they believed that I had
They thought something was going on,
exactly.
so they called.
They're showing up out of nowhere. That's fine and dandy up to a certain point, but then again, what the problem is right now, exactly what's still happening with this person is he can't correct that, just like I couldn't correct that. Right now, if you go into the system, apparently, if you look up at my address, I know that you say they haven't come inside, but there are records about me and interactions that I've had, but I can't correct those.
I believe
I
you,
can't even.
but can I just
It's not a
let you
matter
know
about
one thing?
belief.
Our street crisis unit just had our 1-year anniversary. You can look into any record for that. We've only been around a year.
The mobile crisis.
There's another mobile crisis we are not related to. I believe that is the reason why.
That may be that may be what's happening. And so what may have happened is the mobile crisis unit has now evolved into the street crisis response team.
We're two different complete. They're still around, I believe. They're just not as utilized at all. That's why the city felt like they needed someone who could respond quicker to some of these calls. You know, because people were calling, it's like, hey, there's a person, having a hard time, and sometimes the other crisis unit wouldn't respond for a couple days. So it's like our goal is to get out there sooner. And the indoor thing, they do go indoors. We just changed our protocols around. We just started going indoors about a week ago.
So you clarified some things. Maybe it's just dealing with the other mobile crisis unit. Either way,
yeah, I believe there's some issues with them. That's why we kind of stepped up and said, hey, this way isn't working. Let's try this way a little bit better. That's good. We have clinicians. We have peers that have been, through some of the stuff some of these other people have, so they can come out, they can talk to them, communicate, say, hey, I've been there.
I'm glad. I've lived here now for 24 years. I'm glad. But the problem is, again, no records. Because if you don't have any records of any interactions, that means that there's no corrections that can be made to any mistakes that are being made.
Okay, so
that's all that's exactly why I'm recording it, exactly why I'm making a big deal about it.
So at the end of every single call, our paramedics write a chart for it. They write the chart, the encounter, kind of what happened. Those are accessible through SFFD, through the website. You can go to the website and request the records for yourself. You can't request them, what was going on with this. So you're more than welcome to do that. It's a public record. You can do that. The clinician, I know the clinician marks it. I'm not going to say exactly what they do because I don't know. I'm not the clinician. I'm working for the San Francisco Fire Department. Okay, the peers, do you guys do something? So there's kind of three different, not different charts, charts done by each member of the team. Yeah. Explaining what happened, what was done. These are the ones that we do are accessible through the department. Yeah. More than welcome to do that. That's you just call, request.
That's good. That's actually what I kind of championed for, and even contacted people for. But I ended up getting ghosted about it, and acting as if it wasn't a big deal. And obviously, it was a big enough deal for you to be able to implement it.
Right. And like I said, I don't know the exact reason why that happened to them. I can't be like, oh, well, they were doing it, so that's why we stepped in. I just know the way it's getting rough nowadays with everything. Yeah. So the city, the department decided to kind of come up with their own, mobile street crisis. The other one I know they stayed busy, but there was only a couple. So sometimes it would take them 2, 3, 4, 5, days to respond to one call. So our resolution is yes, we do go out. We keep very tight records. The records of the clinician, again, I need to check with her. I don't want to say officially, but goes into some sort of just a chart. That's it. Nothing official, just a chart saying, hey, we spoke to this person. She had said this. Blah, blah, blah.
No, I understand that. So, again, really, the big deal, and again, you're implementing a solution to it, so it's almost pointless for us to keep talking about it, but it is just what it is. Like, all that was missing previously, and definitely what affected me as somebody who doesn't have mental health problems, but
something about you that you can't get access to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so you said it yourself. Yeah. That was and still is an issue.
If somebody showed up at my house, then I'm like, what the hell? Where's that information going? I can get an answer. I'd be pissed too.
Yeah. So you get exactly what happened to me and why.
I'm not questioning you whatsoever. I believe that 100%. But I just want to let you know that as far as we go with these SCRT teams for the fire department, you clarified. There are records. So,
you clarified it.
So I'm sorry it happened to you.
In my experience, I did have an interaction with the crisis response team with this particular van, but they were just around. They didn't actually interact with me personally. So that's why when I saw this van, I thought it was the same as the mobile crisis van because it was related to the same incidents. But apparently who I interacted with was the mobile health crisis unit and not the street response.
Something like their name, but this is street crisis. We're going to have the big red and white,
Yeah, I think, like I said, I was mostly confused because at the time that I interacted with the mobile health crisis unit, this van was also around. And so I put the two and two together, and in the kind of interaction that I've been seeing with people, one of the main things that I've been seeing that hasn't happened is they don't walk away for a piece of paper or anything, but you guys do. And that automatically, to me, just signals something's wrong. Because if you as a city employee are interacting with someone and then there's no records of that interaction, for many reasons, there's a whole bunch of things. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to keep going around on it. And I am waiting for the bus, so I'm going to end up standing here for a while.
That's fine.
But
also, there's a piece of paper that the clinicians sometimes get signed by the clients that they necessarily don't get a copy of. It's a release of information. I forget the exact name of it. So they can basically ask somebody about their medical history.
Oh, yeah.
So like say they have a caseworker or something like that, they sign a basic confidentiality report saying, hey,
that's all understandable.
So that's all the stuff.
Again, that's what I mean. Like what you're saying right now makes perfect sense. It's understandable. But what I went through, seemingly for a prank or who knows what it is, but having somebody call, because my information is public, right? So I basically have a public kind of social site. You can get my address, you can get my phone number. So I don't know if somebody called it in as a phony thing, as a joke, whatever. But it was extremely frustrating, and still is, because there are still effects of it, to have people show up at my house and be like, yo, we heard you have problems. And I'm like, I don't have any problems. And then that kind of triggers it, seeming as if I have problems. And then it became this whole little cycle thing. And what became even worse about it was then when I tried to inquire afterwards and say, hey, this is what happened. Can I get a record? Can I figure out how you guys even made these decisions? Like, why did you even come to my house? I couldn't get any information. And that's me, who doesn't seem to be in the same mental state as him. At the very least, I'm not doing drugs actively. So when I see somebody like him, and I'm like, well, that's fucked up, because in a way, you're kind of taking advantage of him, you're interacting with him, and then you're kind of ghosting him, and he has no way to prove that this ever even happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if you guys drove away, he came up to me right now and was like, hey, all these people just came up to me, I'd be like, how could that be? Yeah. You're telling me city workers came to you, they didn't give you any information? Yeah. Like, that doesn't normally happen, you know what I mean?
No, I understand.
So, that's why I just...
Also, part of what the street crisis response team does as well is, like I said, we have shelters we can offer people. We offer people rides to the TLC, which you're familiar with, on Market Street. We got blankets, water, food. We have a lot of different resources that we can,
No, I think it's great. Personally, I think it's great. It's just, like I said, for me, one of the things that I've noticed in the city, and I don't want to kind of make it a bigger deal than it is, but it is what it is. I've been seeing a lot of what seems to be somewhat scammy situations in which agencies are really kind of not doing what they say they're going to do, but getting the financial kind of backing to do it. In other words, like, we're helping this guy, and it's like, well, you're not really helping him, and that's not. And I'm not saying you, I shouldn't say this situation. I'm not saying this situation. I'm saying there are
people out there taking advantage.
There are agencies in which what they do is interact with the public. It seems to get demographic info from them, and then justify their budget reasons. Oh, we interact with 100 people a day. And it's like, well, you're not really interacting with 100 people a day. You're basically going up to people, taking their name and number and saying, hey, we told you there's a shelter down there. And that's not really, for myself, as somebody who's lived here in the city for, like I said, 20 years or so, that doesn't do anything. Like, I could tell them where a shelter is. If you're actually going to be out here trying to help people, you should help.
Yeah, no, part of it is what, just so to help you understand also, is what we do is a lot of these shelters you're going to need a referral to, so they'll get connected with a referral.
Yeah.
And obviously, if somebody is, there's, mental health is so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. These clinicians are capable of writing 5150s if necessary. It is very rarely done. So if they're talking to someone or connecting with somebody and they feel like they are able, they kind of know what's going on, and if they're feeding themselves, they're able to clothe themselves, stuff like that, then we can't just grab them and be like, come on, no, you're going with us, stuff like that. So they, that's more than they have more than the right to just tell us to F off if they want or just walk off.
That's why to me the records are very important. Where it's like, if somebody was teeter-tottering on 5150 and it felt as if, hey, they're taking care of themselves or whatever, but there's at least a record that person has and you have, versus only you have a record, then that's unfair to the second time you interact with this person and then be like, okay, we're going to 5150 you now. But if the previous time he had a piece of paper that he was walking around with that said, hey, look, these are our concerns, these are where you can go, and then the second time you interact with them, then it's actually appropriate to 5150. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
I
at
mean-
that point it would be a different thing. It's like, look, we gave you a piece of paper. You actually should be able to understand this. You're not understanding this. There's an actual reason for, besides just a matter of opinion. There's an actual kind of scientific reason to say you should be admitted. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I understand if you need to
get
grab
you.
that.
No, I don't. It's just somebody has the I don't know. So like I said, sorry, our clinicians are, they are trained to 5150. They're trained in mental health. They're trained, all that. Like I said, the peers are here because, some of them have been there, done that. They're out here to, kind of act as, support, advocate, stuff like that. So,
Yeah, like I said, I
that's-
didn't.
if you see us walking away, that's probably wise because we couldn't necessarily, like I said, mental health sucks.
Yeah,
It's a
the
tough
thing
answer
is,
to get anybody,
the thing is, for me, I'm in a situation in which I'm trying to get people to take mental health seriously. Like, I'm in a very weird, unique situation in which one of my ex was diagnosed with a mental health illness that she isn't getting treatment for. So that in itself has kind of projected me into the mental health world of understanding of what it's like when someone has a mental health issue and isn't getting treatment. But one of the biggest things is like this weird thing where it's like, there are people who also need that kind of approach or assistance, and they can't get it. Like my ex, basically. Like nobody can. I can't get anybody to go talk to her because she's not homeless, right? But then it's people like him where it's like kind of what you're saying, where it's like, well, there's a fine line between. Does he really need mental health help, or is he just making his own decisions? They may not be the best decisions, but does he have a right to make those decisions?
Yeah, and that's when it comes in. They may be bad decisions, but are they caring for themselves?
But
Are they able to clothe themselves?
that's where it's frustrating for me. I just as a person in the world, because it's like I hear all this talk about let's take mental health seriously, and yet I see the opposite in most of my daily life. Like in most of my daily life, when someone is clearly in need of mental health help, they're not getting it, and then when it's kind of teeter-tottering, like kind of a situation like this, a lot of time is spent with that person who very realistically doesn't seem to actually need or want mental health help. So it's like both they don't even really need it, but they don't even want it, and then there's people who need it and may not even and aren't given the information that they would need to understand that they would want it also.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, no, like I said, mental health is very close to home for me as well. I lost both my parents messed into it.
Oh, shit, man.
That they, sometimes you just want to grab and be like, no, get in, come on, we're going to take it, we're going to get you some help. At the same time, it's like, people have rights, obviously family members are going to be a lot closer than you want to, grab a session, but strangers, obviously don't do that.
But that's the thing. It's kind of it's weird because it still doesn't make any sense to me. It's like you were saying, family members, you lived through this.
Yeah.
I'm going through this alone because of the way it happened. Is my ex got diagnosed. I don't have anybody else in my family who has diagnosed mental health issues, so I'm not with her, but we still have a child together. So it's kind of like I'm concerned about her non-treatment of her mental health status, but there's no way really to approach it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how to approach it in a way that makes
tough.
sense.
I mean, it's especially, it's one of those things nowadays it's a real hot point. It's like everybody wants to do it, everybody's talking about it, let's do this, but nobody has a pinpoint answer. This is exactly how we do it.
At least records. For me, one of my main concerns is exactly that. Like, a lot of things are changing into, okay, let's give mental health professionals the place instead of calling cops. But that means you have a lot of power. And if you have a lot of power, because that means that you really do, you're ended up making these records and you're making a narrative of this person and any other person's life. And so, without records and then without the ability of that person to be able to say, hey, wait a second, this happened on this date, and I get that you believe that this happened, but I should have at least the right to say, look, that what they wrote down isn't accurate. And I should be able to do that previous to it affected my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like that, I will say that is a really big concern of mine because cops fuck up, mental health professionals fuck up too. We're all humans.
Yeah.
The problem is that from what I'm observing, at least in San Francisco, what I've seen is mental health professionals are given a certain sense of protection and immunity and an inability to really kind of double question their actions. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you can decide yes or no if somebody needs this or not. And there isn't a way to kind of go back and review and say, hey, that was the right decision or the wrong decision. And I understand in any job, you don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable place where people are kind of like just picking all the negative things that you possibly could have done.
Right.
But in a situation like this, where you're talking about people's lives, like their lives, like and their health and safety, it is really important to be able to have that person be able to advocate for themselves, especially if they're already in a vulnerable place. You know what I mean? Which means that if they can't advocate for themselves, then a record will help somebody else be able to advocate for them.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
I mean,
and it's already, you said it's already solved because it's there.
As far as like any sort of paperwork, something like that goes, as far as I know, like I said, I don't work in the commission, but the paperwork they do, it has a lot more to do with just the description and kind of briefly, like, we got called out for this reason. It's not like, I think this, I think that, it's not like a diagnostic, type
But
of
it
thing.
does get used behind the scenes, right? Because I understand, from my understanding, SFPD does have access to those files as well. That's at least from what I've been told.
That would be personal health information or PHI.
Yeah.
But I don't think PD have access to that because they've come to us for that before. We can't just release people's health records because they want it. There's a huge process they got to go through.
Yeah, no, the record,
including court. So
totally. There's a difference, though. But from my understanding, there's a difference between there's a difference between a health record and then just a person had an interaction with a medical professional of the city, right?
Yeah.
So as far as I know, that's what SFPD can see. So SFPD can see, all right, mobile crisis or the street response team has interacted with this person a couple times, right?
Right.
So they're seeing that. I don't know how much other information they can see, but I know they're seeing that, and already in their head they're thinking, this person already has mental health issues. This person already has other things. So they are making decisions in their heads, even just from that kind of small amount of information. Yeah,
we actually get utilized by PD quite a bit. We get a lot of calls out from PD because they'd like,
that's good,
professionals to come out and talk to them rather than,
they
see somebody's crisis. I think they're doing a great job of training just everybody in every field here in the city exactly how to, at least somewhat identify mental health.
Yeah.
Get it and offer whatever resources are out there to get them help. I mean, see if we can make people food.
Totally. Like I said, for me, it's just more, I haven't found myself in a position in which I don't have mental health issues. More than anything, I'm just trying to get people who do have mental health issues to address their own mental health issues, and then have someone accuse me, or have basically professionals accuse me of having had mental health issues simply because somebody accused me of it. Then being like, I don't know how to get out of this, because like everything you're saying to me doesn't make any sense. But to you, for some reason, or not even for some reason, but to you, it's making it seem as if I would be combative anyway. Because if I did have mental health issues and I didn't want to get help, then I would be combative. But I'm just trying to understand why you're even here in the first place. You know what I mean? So it was just a really weird. It affected my life deeply to the point that even now I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Because I can understand. I see.
And I'd be pissed too if that happened. But now that you explained your side, I'm like, okay, that is fucking weird. I mean, if somebody showed up at my house and they're like, hey, somebody called, shared mental health, I'm like, what the fuck? And then I can't figure out who, why, what,
and you
where.
Can't. I mean, even what you're explaining right now between the difference between the mobile health crisis and the street response unit, many people, at least in the time that I was inquiring, weren't able to understand the difference between the two teams either. So that was also frustrating because I look how quickly with you, even though it didn't start out well, within a short amount of time span, you were able to kind of explain many of the things that I had questions about. And even when I was asking those questions directly to people, I wasn't able to get answers. And that's just is what it is. But it's like, that's what I mean. Like, all this is just such a mess that at some point in time should and has to get resolved more than anything, because you guys are getting more power and more people want you to have more power. Realistically, I would rather him be interactive with you guys than the police. But at the same time, what has changed my mind on that is that the police are now getting more conscious and more understanding of the negative consequences of their actions, while mental health professionals are getting more loose and kind of getting a little more drunk on power of not understanding of how much they can actually truly affect someone's life, even if they're not putting them in jail. Because those records and just the accusations alone, the Johnny Depp trial kind of proved it. You know what I mean? It's like accusations sometimes can be. I used to very much believe that an accusation, especially if it didn't seem believable, should be something you wouldn't worry about. But the fact of the matter is, some accusations like mental health crisis or other life events, people take very seriously, and explaining those away isn't quick. You can't quickly explain. You can't just go, oh yeah, that was just bullshit, and people believe you. You need to do a whole fucking trial like Johnny Depp did. And so, like, just seeing this entire thing put it in perspective for me, that it felt as if I needed to kind of figure out what was going on. And I thank you for answering those questions, because it does seem that we're heading into a place in which you guys are going to get a lot more power, and just in general, power corrupts. and it seems as if you guys are doing the steps to try to eliminate kind of negative consequences to the patients and you guys. But the fact is, you know, they're going to happen.
If I can interject too, is just a big part of what these teams are doing is providing services in between the street and the emergency department where they're not getting any help. And there's perpetual cycle of when we come on the ambulance, the only place that we can take them is the emergency department.
Yeah.
They don't need the emergency department.
Yep.
They get booted out and the cycle repeats.
Yeah.
So at least this way, you know, I'm the paramedic on this unit. I'm here to more just medically evaluate.
Oh, that's why. And
be like more like the
yeah,
safety
that's
officer.
That's a good
And then
thing.
we have the social workers and the other people that have had some lived experience try to provide other services that might actually better help them.
Yeah.
So we can actually take them to these services in our van.
That's cool. Yeah.
So
Like I said, for me,
I understand what you're saying too.
I'm more than happy with the service. It's just my concern is both for you guys and the patients. It's like it's new. Power corrupts. There should be people observing. I mean, the fact of the matter is, to me, with any of these situations that deal with things that can affect people's lives, but also just the community in general, as many eyes as possible. As many eyes as possible. There's no reasons for secrets of any of these things.
And recently we've actually started getting 911 dispatch as well. So before it was like somebody called 911, say, hey, this is going on. It would pin, it would get looked at, everything like that. So now we have a certain set of kind of criteria that they would send out the street crisis unit immediately. It's like, you know, I'm not exactly sure of all the different protocols. It's basically if somebody just seems like they're having a rough time or, you know, acting erratically, they're not going to immediately just send out PD to do something, which is good. We kind of eliminate that because, you know, like I said, everybody's people and, you know, I mean, PD is actually really stepping it up, getting, you know, help getting, you know, mental health kind of training for all the
I think in SF, a lot of them don't want to,
So-
like, unlike other cities, a lot of them understand and would rather put it on you guys rather than them deal with it.
Fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Because I think they just know that, for the most part, you know better how to handle it. You know what I mean? Like, realistically, a cop approaching a situation usually creates conflict, period. Just the uniform.
Yeah.
Just the uniform alone creates conflict. So, you know, it is better no matter what for you guys to go out.
And that's why it's great having, you know, a mental health clinician with us because they've, you know, gone to school for all this stuff.
Yeah, I tell you, my
my
trust is a little less with mental health professionals because I said I unfortunately have experienced trying my best to take mental health professionally or seriously and having professionals not. Like really, like if they couldn't make money out of it, they're not really going to take it seriously. And so I've just been disappointed. I've been very disappointed with SF. Not with you, as a matter of fact, this is totally different. But up to this interaction right now, I've had much more disappointment with the services of San Francisco than I have had with anything else in my life.
Yeah,
I mean,
like I said,
it's
when
ridiculous.
we walk away, maybe it's the exact way. It's like we're not specially trained as of yet to do the 5150 hold, so we don't know exactly. Maybe we have an idea what the criteria is, but they're the professionals.
Well,
so,
I mean, no matter
you know,
what,
we can't just grab people.
a
and be
history.
Like, no, 5150, 5150.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So
But
it's
no
like,
matter what history, because I know they because in LA they were going to pass that law too, or the state was going to end up passing a law because of LA to be able to force people into treatment. Because like I know SF is very, very difficult, and I think California in general is very, very difficult. But I believe they either just passed a law, or I know they wanted to pass a law to make it easier. But I remember from the story that I saw, it's one of the things. It's history. Is being able to say like, well, this has happened now 4 or 5 different times. You know, it's kind of like how people are arguing about the bail thing here in San Francisco and in New York. New York is a little different, where it's like somebody who like has been in and out of fucking jail like 5 or 6 times in the last 6 months. Then yeah, you know what I mean? Then the judge can fucking say like, no, I'm not going to grant you, like you can't get bail and I'm not going to let you out. And it's the same thing with, you know, these kind of interactions where if somebody's had mental health issues now a few different times, well then at least, like I said, now there's a record. But not only is there just a record on your end, but there's a record that person should be able to understand that. Like, that's very basic. You don't need to be a mental health professional to understand that. Like, hey, if you've gotten this piece of paper 3 different times that says, hey, we really think you may have schizophrenia, or you really should talk to a doctor, or you really need to do this, and you haven't done it, well then, no one's going to argue about a 5150. But with that not happening, I personally would always argue about a 5150, simply because it's kind of like, well, how are you really making that decision? I gotta try to catch this bus though. Thank you so much for answering though. And making it clear for me a lot of questions that I had. Thank you. And I'm glad that I didn't interfere too much. Thank you.